Hello again. I have already changed my channel name. I didn't feel like the original one was appropriate, so I gave it a little revamp. And today's topic is you don't need a budget, my terrible financial advice. And my disclaimer for this is I am not a financial advisor. Obviously, this is not financial advice for you as an individual. I am just telling you what I do, what's worked for me. I was able to save $120,000 in 2 years using this strategy, which is the same thing I've been doing my entire life. So there are other times in my life where I was able to save less because I was making less, but still save quite a bit of money. I started investing when I turned 30 in a Roth IRA when I was in grad school making trash money, maybe $24,000 a year, and I was still able to save $3,000 a year. And I do want to say, I can't really speak for anyone in a situation outside of a similar situation to me. I think that this works really well if you're young, you have very few commitments, you're not severely in debt, etc., etc. I could maybe work for you if you're in debt. I don't know. You tell me. Okay, I have some notes here, and that's what I'm looking at because I want to stay organized. So, habit number one that I think is really important, and obviously this is easier said than done, but start with these habits when you're young because then they just kind of translate to the rest of your life. If you're anything like me and budgets make your skin crawl, then maybe some pieces of this might be helpful for you. I can't imagine sitting down and budgeting. It absolutely drives me nuts, and I would rather do what I do. And I imagine other people probably do something similar. So, step one is basically decide how much you want to save. Do you want to save for an emergency fund and you have a general sense of what you're making, or maybe you're switching jobs and you're going to a higher paying job? That's a really convenient time to revamp your relationship with money since you're changing how much you bring in anyway. So decide how much you want to save, and that's commitment number one. So have it either directly deposit, because most employers allow you to do that, directly deposit into that account, straight into your IRA, straight into your savings account, which should be completely separate. I recommend it not being visible to you on a regular basis. So my high yield savings account is a completely different company from my regular everyday checking account, and I don't look at that very often. And I think that's a good thing. It's good not to be super hyper aware, maybe even avoid linking it if you can get away with that to your primary, especially if you're not maybe the best with money and you tend to just look at that and be like, oh, I can just pay it out of here. Just don't link it. Is that bad advice? I don't know. I don't think it is. Maybe it is. Okay, so yeah, if you pick some wild amount, I think when I started investing in my Roth IRA, I might have started at maybe, I was getting paid every 2 weeks, I think. And I think I was adding maybe 100, something like that, 100, 150 once a month. And then when I realized that didn't feel too terrible, I upped the amount slowly. And, I had a free financial advisor through my bank, my credit union, and I would just contact him and have him increase it. And every single time I got a raise in grad school, which I didn't for several years, and then they started giving us inflation raises, I guess cost of living raises, then I started just adding a little bit more each time. So rather than allowing my lifestyle to inflate, I just took that money and immediately started doing different things with it, adding it to savings, different buckets of savings, etc., instead of being like, woohoo, now I can go out to eat more often or something like that. Let's see. Yeah. And if at any point you realize that it's too much, just back off a little bit, just the tiniest bit. It's as easy as that, right? 1 month, there's an oopsie, just back off a little, no big deal. So rather than building a budget, you're kind of testing the budget, I would say, I guess, that it's sort of like doing your very first 1 rep max. You don't know what it is until you're actually testing it out. People can say, use 80% of your 1 rep max. And you're like, okay, well, I don't know what my 1 rep max is. So this is you're figuring out sort of your financial 80% of your 1 rep max. Maybe that's a terrible analogy. I don't know. So yeah. And to be fair, just to be completely transparent, when I was in grad school, I didn't have a car payment. I did know people that did have car payments. I didn't have a car payment. Obviously, if you don't have one, that's a huge advantage. If you don't have tons and tons of debt or bills, etc., you don't have to buy a new car. You really shouldn't buy a new car. Cars depreciate so quickly. It's really kind of foolish. Don't do it. And okay, the obvious part is obviously you need to accommodate your rent and your basic living expenses, utilities, groceries, etc. But you know, if you're somebody that shops at Whole Foods, maybe don't shop at Whole Foods because that's crazy. I recommend learning how to wash your vegetables and get pesticides off of them, which is not difficult, instead of going out and buying organic food if it's going to put you into debt or it really just doesn't make sense. I personally choose not to support billionaires as much as I can. I choose not to support Jeff Bezos. So that's just me. But you do you. I highly recommend that you treat your credit card like a debit card. My father scared me out of credit cards. So I think I got my first one when I was 30. So I always just spent money I had. And it was a blessing, but also not helpful when it came down to having a credit score. But I was able to get my credit score into the 800s pretty quickly. I just watched it using Credit Karma and observed and figured out some things just take time, how to get a really good credit score. So I was able to do that too. But yeah, definitely just, especially if you're bad with money, just spend it once it goes through, pay it off right away. You really don't want to be spending money that you don't have. And I think that's pretty universal advice. I don't think there's anybody out there not giving that advice. I also think that even small amounts into a Roth IRA, $10 a month, whatever you think you can afford. It could be $5 a month. It really does not matter, in my opinion. And if you start young, that is so much better. As soon as you're 18, I mean, you can even start before that, right? Start playing around. You can open a Fidelity account. I think their code Fidelity 100 still works to get you $100 if you use that when you're signing up for a brokerage account or a Roth IRA. I highly, highly, highly recommend starting a Roth IRA when you're young, whenever you start working, or start filing taxes. Definitely open one up, put whatever you can in there. I don't care if it's one single dollar. It's more than what you have now. So do that. Don't get intimidated. You'll eventually start to see the gains. It may, especially in the current economy, take a while for you to see that. But when I started investing, things were looking really good, and that really encouraged me to invest more. So I highly recommend that you start doing that. And you don't have to be young. Just start. If you don't have one, just start. And it will be so, so helpful. But yeah, if you're young, you will never regret it. I basically bullied my sisters into doing this when they were very young. And I think that they will not ever regret it. So, but I would say first and foremost, you really do want to prioritize saving money in a high yield savings account for an emergency fund. it's okay to shop around. My current high yield savings account, when I opened it, it was the highest yielding savings account, but now it is not, and I have considered moving it. You can do that. It doesn't matter as long as you know. I mean, I've had it for several years, but if there were any penalties, say, or they require you to keep money in there for X amount of time to get whatever, I don't know, maybe you used a referral code or something like that, then just make sure that you're aware of that. But don't hesitate. If you feel like moving your money around, do it. Just make sure, if you're planning to do that, don't link things directly to that account. Keep things linked to a separate primary, a checking account that you know you're going to keep and not get rid of. So there's that. Definitely don't hesitate to move stuff, but definitely save money for an emergency fund. As a fun story, I really didn't think that this would happen to me, but I got let go, and I was really thankful for my emergency fund. I did get unemployment, but the unemployment, I was a high earner, so the unemployment was, for most people, it's half of what they earn. For me, it was a fifth, and I had built a life around my earnings, kind of. I'm always pretty conservative, but I had built this life around my earnings, and so the amount that I brought in a month with unemployment didn't even cover my mortgage. So just barely. It was maybe $50 under my mortgage. So I was really glad to have that savings, but I do wish that I had had more savings, because by the time I got to the 6-month mark, I'd used up all my unemployment, and I was feeling a little stressed. But I do stress about these things maybe more than other people. I don't know. I think. Okay, so the way that I like to do things is I like to make sure that maybe it's that pay yourself first model. I think, I don't know. I just don't do the budgeting part. I just go, how much do I want to save? Okay, great. And I funnel all those things appropriately, or I have them funnel themselves so that I don't have to rely on myself to do that. And then whenever my deadlines for my credit cards, my due dates hit, so the 15th and then the end of the month, I pay those off. And then whatever's left over in my account, I put it into, if I was still saving for my emergency fund, I put it into there, or I put it wherever I feel like. If I want to invest it in my brokerage account, I do that, etc. So whatever's left over, it also goes into a savings vehicle. So yeah, do I have anything else written? No, that's it. So yeah, I have never done a budget in my entire life. I'm not saying that they aren't beneficial and that they're not great and that you shouldn't do them, because you should if you have the patience for it. You should if you are trying to pay off debt. I've never needed to do it. I am a person who just reins everything in, doesn't spend on anything. I don't have subscriptions. I don't like committing to stuff like that. I prefer to have my money than to have subscriptions. And when I lost my job, anything that I was paying for that I could get rid of, I did. I had, Fabletics that would sometimes accidentally charge me because I'd forget to cancel it. I canceled that. I had some subscriptions that were silly things that aren't, it's not Netflix, but it was toilet paper and stuff just to make my life a little bit more convenient that was more expensive. So I pretty much just got rid of everything. And I think I'm not going to expand on that. We're at the 14-minute mark. So that's my arguably good, arguably terrible financial advice. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, please don't come for me. But maybe it will. You gotta force yourself to save. And that's how you do it if you budgeted anyway. So, okay. Bye.